All right, let's dive straight into this explainer. Today, we're evaluating one of the most fascinating strategic pivots happening in the energy sector right now. And that's T1 Energy's massive transformation from a Norwegian battery maker into a heavyweight US solar manufacturer. I mean, it's a completely bold move, right? Essentially swapping fjords and batteries for the Texas sun and solar modules. But the real question is, does this transition actually make financial sense? So, the absolutely crucial point we're figuring out today is whether this company represents a viable, long-term compounder for your portfolio, or if it's just a highly risky, heavy asset gamble. Look, with a market cap that's been fluctuating right around that $2.9 billion mark, the stakes here are undeniably high. We really have to separate the hype of a cool transition story from the hard reality of generating predictable long-term returns. To do that, we're going to systematically break down this opportunity across 6 key areas. Number 1, the business and policy moat. Number 2, management and capital allocation. Number 3, financial health and profitability. Number 4, intrinsic value and market trends. Number 5, Elliott wave technical analysis. And finally, number 6, the final investment verdict.
Section 1. The business and policy moat.
Okay, so T1 is in a really interesting transition phase right now. Their G1 factory in Dallas, which boasts a 5 gigawatt capacity, is already operating and running at full tilt. Back in the fourth quarter of 2025, they hit a record 1.13 gigawatts of quarterly output and pulled in $358.5 million in revenue. And then in Q1 2026, they actually hit historical highs in both net income and adjusted EBITDA. But here's the catch, and it's a big one. G1 currently relies on imported cells. Management is calling 2026 a transition year because to achieve true vertical integration, to turn their moat from kind of narrow to genuinely wide, they absolutely have to get their 2.1 gigawatt G2 factory in Austin online by the fourth quarter of 2026. That G2 facility is the key to unlocking a fully domestic, closed-loop supply chain. Now, to really grasp their path to profitability, you've got to understand the policy game being played here. T1 benefits massively from the 45X manufacturing tax credit, which is a major incentive under the U.S. Inflation Reduction Act. And the thing is, they haven't just qualified for it, they're actively monetizing it. In December 2025, T1 successfully sold $160 million worth of these 45X tax credits at 91 cents on the dollar. That is a direct, immediate cash injection right into their balance sheet. They've also been really aggressive about cutting ties with heavily scrutinized foreign entities just to make sure they stay eligible. So they've positioned themselves incredibly well to ride these U.S. policy tailwinds. Section 2, Management and Capital Allocation. $225 million. Just let that number sink in for a second. Despite management hitting some solid milestones lately, like keeping the G2 construction right on schedule and moving their contracts over to a much safer fixed margin model, this staggering number represents the remaining funding gap for the first phase of G2. The total capital expenditure to get G2 up and running is estimated somewhere around $400 to $425 million. Now, T1 did recently raise some capital, which we'll get into, but they still absolutely need to close this $225 million gap by the second quarter of 2026 to make sure construction doesn't grind to a halt. And here's the harsh reality for investors. Management is clearly taking a growth-first, returns-later approach to capital allocation, and that brings a constant, looming threat of shareholder dilution. To help bridge that massive G2 funding gap, they recently completed a $160 million convertible notes offering. It was actually upsized because institutional demand was so strong. Sounds great on paper, right? But with roughly 279 million shares already outstanding, if the stock price pushes above the $6.80 conversion mark for those notes, a wave of new shares will be issued. That means existing shareholders get diluted. Section 3, Financial Health and Profitability. Let's talk numbers. Top-line revenue is growing at a blistering pace. They pulled in about $755 million for the full year of 2025, heavily driven by that G1 ramp-up, and Q1 2026 brought in around $178 million. But you absolutely cannot ignore the weakness on the balance sheet. Trailing 12-month free cash flow is sitting at a negative $43 million. Plus, they only have about $46.4 million in unrestricted cash to offset some pretty significant debt levels. Why are they burning so much cash? It's simple. The capital expenditures required to build the G2 facility are astronomical, and they're expected to hit between $300 and $400 million in 2026 alone. This whole investment thesis basically boils down to crossing what we call the valley of death. Right now, owner earnings are deeply negative. The entire bet is on surviving this cash burn phase and reaching commercial production at G2. Once that factory is fully online, vertical integration is finally complete, and those 45X credits are providing a stable, monetized cash flow. If they execute, the company projects they'll reach the promised land, an estimated adjusted EBITDA somewhere between $375 million and $450 million by 2027.
Section 4. Intrinsic value and market trends.
So, what is this execution story actually worth? To figure that out, we use a two-stage discounted cash flow model, anchoring our valuation on some very specific data-driven assumptions. We're looking at a projected 2026 revenue of $1.3 billion, an EBITDA margin that expands to between 5 and 10%, and a perpetual growth rate of 3%. Crucially, we are using a 12% weighted average cost of capital. Honestly, that high discount rate is absolutely necessary to accurately reflect the high beta and the very real manufacturing risks associated with getting a heavy asset project like G2 fully operational. When we run those numbers, we get an implied intrinsic value per share with a midpoint right around $8 to $10. Now, think about what that means for a second. It tells us the market is actually incredibly efficient right now. It's already pricing in the successful commissioning of G2. There is no massive, obvious, hidden undervaluation here. You're basically paying a fair price assuming management executes their plan perfectly. A true margin of safety for value investors wouldn't really emerge unless the stock dipped down into the $6 to $7 range.
Section 5. Elliott Wave Technical Analysis.
Let's shift gears and look at the market momentum. The stock has rebounded dramatically from a low of around $1 back in September 2025. What we're watching unfold right now is a classic, textbook, 5-wave impulse structure. This kind of sharp volatility makes it tough for the faint of heart, but it creates massive trading opportunities if you understand the underlying wave mechanics. Breaking down those specific price ranges, we can see how we progressed from the initial Wave 1 impulse, which launched the price from $1 all the way up to roughly $9. Then, exactly as the model expects, we saw a roughly 50% Wave 2 correction that brought the price back down to around $4.50 by March of 2026. Honestly, it's textbook retracement behavior. And that brings us to exactly where we are today. We are very likely in the early stages of Wave 3. Now, historically, Wave 3 is the strongest, most aggressive impulse. This current move is being confirmed by a massive 26.28% weekly gain and some truly explosive trading volume, hitting over 72 million shares. The fact that the volume and the price are moving together provides the strongest possible confirmation that this breakout is valid. If this momentum holds, Wave 3 is projected to target the 15 to 16 zone. However, let's temper that excitement with a quick dose of reality. You have to note that the Relative Strength Index, or RSI, has just broken into overbought territory at 71.09. Now, while that is pretty typical for early Wave 3 behavior, it does mean that short-term volatility and a near-term pullback are highly, highly likely before the stock can actually march up to that $15 target zone. If we do see a pullback, key support sits right around the $7.50 to $8 mark. Section 6. The final investment verdict. So, putting it all together, T1 Energy has a very clear path to becoming a fundamentally good business if management can deliver. But make no mistake, this is absolutely not a buy and forget kind of stock. It requires dynamic active tracking. You need to be monitoring the terms of their Q2 financing to see if they can actually secure that missing $225 million without toxic dilution. You need to watch the Q4 2026 G2 construction milestones like a hawk. You also need to track the policy environment, specifically the Department of Commerce's Section 232 tariff rulings on foreign polysilicon, because a favorable ruling there could vastly amplify T1's domestic advantage. And from a technical standpoint, you've got to maintain a strict stop loss below $4.50, which was the Wave 2 low, because breaking below that completely invalidates the entire bullish setup. Ultimately, you have to look at the entire picture. T1 Energy is attempting to cross a massive financial valley of death to reach vertical integration and secure stable profitability. The upside? It's totally clear, but the execution risks are immense. The market has already priced in a lot of this success, meaning any stumble along the way could be punishing for the stock price. So the final question you really have to ask yourself is this: does your personal risk tolerance actually align with this high-stakes execution story? And do you have the iron stomach required to weather the inevitable volatility along the way?